Welcome to this explainer. I am so glad you're joining me. Today, we're diving into something that literally feels like a superpower once it clicks, and that's automated data collection. If you've ever wanted to pull information off the internet automatically, but just felt totally overwhelmed by all the technical hurdles, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to break this all down and learn how to build a fully functional video downloader from scratch, completely pain-free. Let's get into it. Let's just address the elephant in the room right off the bat. You want to scrape the web, you want to gather some data, but what actually happens? You write a script, it works flawlessly for maybe 5 minutes, and then boom, you get hit with a CAPTCHA, a rate limit, or some really aggressive bot verification. It's incredibly frustrating. The old way of scraping usually means you're constantly fixing broken scripts the absolute second a website updates its code. So we're really looking at two completely different ways to tackle this. On one hand, you've got the old, painful way. Traditional scraping. You're wrestling with proxies, you're trying to parse messy HTML, and you're constantly getting blocked. But on the other hand, we have the modern way, which is API scraping. This approach actually runs your searches in a real browser on a server somewhere else. It solves those pesky CAPTCHAs for you automatically, and honestly, the best part? It returns clean, structured JSON data. It's a night and day difference, and it's exactly the modern approach we're going to master today. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the web scraping problem, meet the SERP API, and run your first API search. Then we'll scrape shorts and lens, build the video downloader, and finally, secure your secret keys. All right, let's jump right into part one, the web scraping problem. So why do we even bother scraping the web in the first place? Well, as software developer Anna Kubo points out in our source material, the real-world applications are just huge. You might want to collect pricing data across thousands of different products. Or maybe you want to monitor your competitors' content, track where your website ranks in search engines, or even gather massive data sets to train your own custom AI tools. The data's out there, right? And scraping is exactly how you harvest it. Which brings us to part two, meet the SERP API. The real beauty of this solution is how amazingly simple it is. Enter the SERP API. It's basically an NPM package, which really just means it's a bundle of pre-written JavaScript code that we can drop right into our project. Think of it as a middleman. You tell it what you want to search, and it does all the heavy lifting. It handles the proxies, bypasses the bot detection, and formats all that messy web page code into beautiful, easy-to-read JSON data. Okay, moving on to part three, your first API search. The absolute key here is knowing how to actually ask the API for what we want. Instead of writing all this complex, messy browser automation code yourself, you're literally just sending over a simple list of parameters. You specify the engine you want to use, like Google. You pass your query, Q, let's say cafe. You can even hyper-target your search with a location like London, set your language with HL and country code with GL. And of course, you pass your API key to prove who you are. It's basically just filling out a tiny digital form. And your reward for filling out that little form? A beautifully structured JSON results payload. Say you ran that London cafe search. The API instantly hands you back all this organized data. You're not just getting plain text, you're getting arrays of Instagram reels, specific YouTube video titles like London's cheapest cafe, Facebook posts, and even related Google questions. Because it's JSON, your code can just instantly read it, filter it, and display it. No more hunting through thousands of lines of raw HTML. Let's kick things up a notch in part four, scraping shorts and lens. Now, what if you don't just want text results? What if you want trending video content? You literally just have to tweak one single parameter. By changing the engine parameter to Google Short Videos and setting your query, like say the viral toy Laboo, the API completely pivots. It'll now pull back direct video links, thumbnail images, the names of the channels that posted them, and exactly how long each video is. It is so perfectly modular. And honestly, it gets even cooler. Change that engine parameter to Google Lens, and instead of typing a text query, you just pass it an image URL. Our source uses a photo of Danny DeVito as a super fun example. The API will perform a full reverse image search and hand you back an array of exact visual matches from across the entire internet. You are practically building an image recognition scraper with just a handful of configuration lines. No joke. All right, the moment we've been waiting for, part five, building the video downloader. Let's walk through the backend architecture, which is basically the brain of our app. Step one, we set up an Express server using Node.js to handle our internet traffic. Step two, when a user searches for something, our server calls the SERP API. Step 3, we take that massive list of video results we get back and we slice the JSON, cutting it down to just 5, 10, or maybe 15 items, depending on what the user wants. Finally, step 4, we send that clean, sliced data straight over to our front-end interface. Now let's talk about the front end and the actual download magic. First, we put together a sleek UI using HTML and CSS with some search bars and drop-downs. Second, the front end fetches that sliced video data from our back end. But here is the critical step 3. To actually download the physical video file, our Node.js app triggers something called a child process. That's essentially a mini program running in the background. It quietly opens a tool called YTDLP, hands out the video URL, and says, hey, grab this media. Step 4, it saves those single MP4 files directly into a local downloads folder right on your computer. Now, I want to highlight a really interesting technical detail from the source, and that is the number 60. See, when you download a video off the internet, the original title could be an absolute mess, full of emojis, weird symbols, or it might just be incredibly long. If you try to save a file with that messy title, your computer's operating system might actually crash or throw an error. So our source developer uses something called regex to strip out all those special characters, replacing them with safe underlines, and strictly limits the file name to a maximum of 60 characters. This guarantees a safe, clean save on your local machine every single time. Finally, we have to talk about part 6, securing your secret keys. Whenever you sign up for an API, you're given a unique, private API key. Think of this as your digital credit card. And as Anna Kubo explicitly warns in the source material, this is critical. If you accidentally leave that key in your code and upload it to a public place like GitHub, malicious bots will scrape it within seconds. They can hijack your account, burn through all your search credits, and if you have a real credit card attached, they can rack up a genuinely hefty bill. The financial stakes here are absolutely real. So, how do we actually prevent that nightmare scenario? Well, the industry standard fix is the .env file. You install a package called .env, and you create a hidden file in your project directory just called .env. You paste your secret API key inside this file. Then you tell your version control system like Git to completely ignore it. This way, your local code can securely read the key from the hidden file to run the app, but your secret key never ever gets uploaded to the internet. And just like that, you've got the architecture of a full-stack video downloader down. We've bypassed CAPTCHAs, manipulated JSON payloads, integrated a child process for media downloading, and locked down our credentials. You have these amazing modular building blocks at your fingertips now, so the only question left to ask is, what incredibly tedious task are you going to automate next? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy building.